everyone, this is Kim Bussey. I am the Key Relationship Manager here at Omnia. We are so happy that you joined us for our February webinar, Fuel Employee Trust and Engagement with Authentic Communication. Yes, everything that we're going to be talking about today is going to center around communication. Before we begin, just want to let you know a couple of quick housekeeping. At the top of your screen is a person with a hand raised. Go ahead and raise your hand if you can hear me. If you at any point agree or disagree with what I'm saying, go ahead and let me know. If you need me to speak a little louder or speak a little softer or speed up or slow down, let me know. And because I cannot hear you, please, laughter and applause is always appreciated if you like something I say. Also, we will have a Q&A at the end. However, if at any time we're talking about anything, you have comments, questions, best practices, please feel free to share them. We're going to have some interactive questions. We're going to ask you to put on your thinking hat a little bit to share some of your ideas. But let's get started. Also, if you're frantically going to wonder how in the world am I going to write everything down, this presentation is available for download at the end, plus our webinar is being recorded. So if you don't follow us on our LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook accounts, make sure that you do that so you can get all of our great updates, blogs, information, as well as know when the recording is available. So, show of hands, how many of you have either been a part of a picture that looks just like that, a conversation, or witnessed it? I see hands going up all over the place. Absolutely. So there are so many people saying now that the art of communication is dead. We're looking at different things such as technology, smartphones. I know for myself, I have 2 daughters in college. There will be times that they are sitting right next to us watching TV on their phones. There's no communication to the point that I have declared no phone zones at certain times. Because if not, this is exactly what's going to happen. And we're going to talk today a little bit about the effects of technology on communication and how we need to embrace some of those changes, but also set some rules of engagement. But nothing replaces the spoken word, that face-to-face communication. It's essential because of a lot of different things. When we're looking at an email, sometimes text or emails, we get those flaming emails, right? Or we're reading it through our perspective. And if we're having a bad day, the perspective of that we're reading that email or that text is going to reflect negatively. If we're reading it and having a great day, then we might put a little bit more positive spin on that information. So before we begin, I really want to know what you are hoping to learn from today's webinar. Go ahead and type in that first box for me what you're hoping to learn. Maybe it's how to communicate better with your team. Maybe it has something to do with remote employees. And the communication is something that goes across all areas of our life versus personal, the workplace. We all communicate. So I love that. Dave's hoping to learn some better methods to communicate effectively. We're going to learn a little bit about how we communicate and how we can adjust that. I see some more people typing, as an introvert, how to communicate more clearly, how to become a better listener. Maybe it's that I listen, but sometimes I catch on that one thing and I'm like, ooh, now, shh, I'm ready to talk now. How to communicate with employees and understand what they're saying, adjusting with different communication styles. And that goes right hand in hand with how to communicate better with your team. The first step is to understand how we communicate as leaders. And then once we understand how we communicate, our self-awareness, then we're going to be able to apply and adapt that to our teams. And I see that quite a bit. So whether you're an introvert, you want to communicate more clearly, how to become a better listener, but all in all, employee engagement starts with communication, and that starts with leadership. We're going to talk about 3 of those trust killers as well when it comes to communication. So as I said, there are multiple ways to communicate, whether it's face-to-face in meetings, reading the paper, watching TV, text, social media. In a recent study, 70% of our waking time was found that we spend that communicating. We read, we listen, we scroll the internet. Now, that 70% of our waking time is broken down into some different categories. 16% of our communication time is spent reading, whether it's reading the paper online, blogs, books, self-development. 9% is writing. Okay, so how many of you, by a show of hands, use email during the day? I know I do. That communicating back and forth is 9% of your waking time. 30% of our waking time that we spend communicating is spent talking. And ironically enough, 45% of that time is spent listening. However, where we see that disengagement happen when it comes to authentic communication is that we spend more time talking than we do listening, especially in the workplace. As leaders, sometimes we assume the best way to create engagement. We think we know what our employees want, but do we really know? So, in your environment, what do you think employees are looking for in a company? Is it those perks and extra days off, bonuses, salaries? Is it better communication? What do you think that they're looking for? See some people typing. I know when, a lot of times it boils down to I want to be appreciated at times, but clear leadership. Absolutely. See some other people typing for us. Told you we were going to have your thinking caps on. Clear understanding of what's expected, professional growth, wanting to be appreciated. Absolutely. Out of those things, what about, that they're a part of the team? Do you think that people are looking for that? I don't want to be just a number. I want to be part of something special, especially when we've told people, hey, do what you're passionate about, employee engagement. Most of the time, employers think that it's those hard perks that employees are looking for in a company. I want better pay. I want the health benefits. I want the 401k with the company investment. Give me that cool break room and free lunches. Work balance, life balance is important as well. Give me some of that flex time. Can I work off site? Do I need to be here? But what we found out in a recent survey of 1,000 employees across industries, 81% would rather join a company that values open communication than perks like health plans. 81%. 15% said that they're very satisfied with the communication. Going back to the polls that we're seeing, where we're seeing that clear leadership, clear understanding of what's expected, that professional growth, wanting to be appreciated, employee engagement. 15% of 1,000 are saying, yeah, I'm satisfied with that communication. I'm getting that clear leadership. I know what's expected of me. But when they started talking about communication with managers, 62% said that they share professional goals with managers just a few times a year. Because they think that 15% of that 1,000 people believe that managers highly value, while the other 58% said, they value it moderately, slightly, or not at all. How can you engage your employees if they don't feel like they have a voice and that they're sharing their professional goals? So, as leaders, we have a lot of tasks, right? We have performance goals. We have HR issues. We have customer relations. We've got sales goals. We've got professional development. We're trying to develop ourselves too. So what do we do? To establish those authentic communication, to be able to begin to speak into our employees and engage them so that they feel that, yes, my feedback is highly valued. Yes, my managers want to hear from me more than that annual evaluation that we do. So how do we do that? Well, I want you to ask these questions, and I want you to keep these in mind as we go through our webinar. One, ask yourself, as a leader, what is my role? Especially when I'm creating this communication and this authentic engagement. Is my role as a leader a facilitator? Maybe there's some peer-to-peer conflict and I need to step back. Is my goal the presenter? This is our vision. Here is where we're going. Then during the communication, ask yourself, why am I saying it? What kind of feedback is it? Is it positive feedback or is it that constructive feedback? I hate the words constructive criticism because when you hear constructive criticism, you automatically think, I'm being criticized. Just tell me what I did wrong. Don't say it's constructive because while you may feel it's constructive, the employee or the person that you're talking to may not feel it. But maybe what you're communicating is that vision casting. Maybe you're communicating change. Understanding why you're saying the message that you're saying is going to allow you to tailor it to have that clear understanding. Ask yourself, how do I say it? Now you may be thinking, is there more than one way to say it? Absolutely. Is it something that needs to be communicated via email? Is it something that we're going to do a press release? You never want your employees to find out something after the public has. I know that there's points where there's some confidentiality and it's a fine line, but you never want to know, hey, our company was sold and I found out about it by reading in the paper. That's going to automatically disengage your employees. Maybe it's that re-engagement. Okay, I know that we've had some difficult times. How do I say, I recognize the mistakes in the past. I know we've got some work to do, and this is what we're going to do. Does it need to be verbal? Does it need to be written communication? Do I need to say it in a group setting that's very formal? Is it something that we're going to have a townhouse meeting that's going to incorporate that Q&A? All of those are key to understanding that authentic communication. Then ask yourself, when do I want to say it? I can tell you right now, you never want to say anything in the heat of the moment. Same thing with writing those emails. If you're upset, step away from the keyboard. Don't say it. When is it something that needs to be addressed one-on-one in a formal setting? Or do I need to, once again, when do I say it? Is it at that company all-quarter meeting? And then where is the best place to talk? And we're going to really dive a little bit deeper into that particular one later on in the webinar. We're going to talk about some alternatives and thinking outside of the box versus staying, I'm going to talk to you across the desk because that's the best way. That's the way it's always been done. Well, let's start thinking outside of that role. Once we understand the what, the why, the how, the when, and the where of communication, then we begin to create and establish that authentic communication. It's kind of that foundation, but there's one other key ingredient to that, and that's understanding the different roles of communication. Going back to that first poll of being an active listener or speaking more clearly, it's more difficult for others. But regardless of the conversation, whether it's casual, professional, personal, there are always two people engaged in the communication role. We have the sender and we have the receiver. And what we communicate clearly, you first have to know that role. And you're going to vary. So let's define that. The sender is the person talking. The receiver is the person listening. And once again, we can change that several times before we reach the end of the conversation. But what tends to happen is that a lot of times we want to be one or the other. We should be the sender, but we don't know exactly the right words to say. So that's when that awkward silence develops, right? When we're having that conversation and it's just, well, somebody should speak, but I don't really want to be the first one to address it, but okay, I guess I will. Or we're that receiver and we're like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Ooh, I caught on one thing and I'm just gonna, I'm ready. And then I overtalk the person. We have two ears and one mouth for a reason. We should be listening more, right? About 45% of our waking time that we spend communicating should be listening. But it's important to know how you communicate as well. So that will help with your challenge, strengths and challenges. Here at Omnia, we know that there are two types of communicators. We have the relational communicator and the analytical communicator. So our relational communicator is people-oriented. They're intuitive decision makers. They're enthusiastic. They are the people that can talk to anyone, never met a stranger. They motivate by going, woohoo, way to go, team. We're going to have a parade through the office for you. Great job. I'm going to high five. I'm going to get us energized. I want to be liked and I care about the people. Our analytical communicators are a little bit different. They're more factual, problem solvers. They're clear, they're concise. They want to listen more and gather all the facts. The analyticals tend to fall a little bit more on that introverted side. I'm going to speak when I have something to talk about. When I'm motivating people, because I'm a bit more of that analytical and a bit more of that problem solver, I'm going to focus more on the problem. It's not because I'm negative, but I see something that needs to be corrected. Let's correct it. So a relational communicator may say something like, hey, Sarah, great report. Hey, good content. Woohoo! The analytical communicator may go, Sarah, I received your report. There was a typo on page 3, word 4, paragraph 2. Can you correct it? As leaders, how we communicate and how we motivate people is key to understanding who we are first. If you're that relational communicator, you may struggle with like listening at times because you like to talk. If you're that analytical communicator, you may say, I've got a certain number of words every day, and that's all I can say. How you're going to motivate people are very, very different. It's going to be key to understanding that. So let's talk about that for a little bit. What are some of the strengths that you think relational communicators have, and what are some of those challenges? And maybe you put yourself, think of how you communicate. Are you more of that people person who wants to get to know your team and nurture them? What are some of your strengths? What are some of your challenges? Maybe you are, go ahead and type those in that top two boxes. If you are that analytical communicator, the introvert, what are some of your strengths? What are some of your challenges? Go ahead and think about how you communicate and then type those in. Maybe you understand some of it from a different aspect. Absolutely. So we're seeing some of the strengths and some of the challenges as cheerleaders and motivators, easy to talk to, personable. Some of those challenges are they miss the point at times. Absolutely. Their ears kind of shut off because, oh, I've got one thing to say and I know what you're going to say and I'm going to answer it. Some other strengths of those relational communicators are they're empathetic, very personable. Tunnel vision, and that's very interesting, Anita, that you would say that because sometimes relational, they've got one thing, I'm focused on what I want to say. They do overspeak at times, not because they're trying to be rude, but because they're excited to say what they have to say. Think of those relational communicators. The challenges as well may be that they may need to say, they may write those emails that everybody receives and dreads getting, right? Because they're like, ugh, Kim's email always starts off with, hi, how's everything going? Hope you had a great weekend. I had a fabulous weekend. Let me tell you, we're in Florida. It wasn't that cold. Just enough of a chill in the air, but it was blue skies. We got to do this, and you're thinking, oh, could you please just get to the point? And I love that. Like, sometimes they can come across as fake because they are relational. If they're extremely relational and not very assertive, then they want to be everybody's friend. So some of their challenges, especially as a leader, may be addressing some of those issues quickly and concisely. Some of those strengths of those analytical communicators, I see this, get to the point. They miss the feelings. They're sticking to the facts. They always have data to prepare what will come next. Absolutely. Very data driven. If any of you watch The Big Bang Theory, so Penny would be our relational communicator and Sheldon would probably be our analytical. Now that's taking it a bit to this extreme, but that's it. Give me the facts. If you want me to make a decision, I'm going to base it on the facts. Some of the challenges of those analytical communicators are they can come across as condescending, cutthroat. I'm basing it strictly on the facts. I don't care about the people. They're viewed as unapproachable. Absolutely, because they are more reserved and they speak based on facts and they speak very logically. Some people may be scared to talk with them. And it doesn't mean that they're not friendly. They're very friendly once you get to a certain point. But they're not going to be the person that walks into the meeting and goes, I have arrived. Now we can get the meeting started. They're going to come in with their notepads ready to take decisions. Sometimes they don't act quickly enough because they need more facts before the decisions. Neither communication style is right or wrong. And as we see, you've all listed some really great strengths of both and some challenges of both. Understand who you are and think about how you communicate. Are those some of your challenges? So some of the challenges for that relational communicator who's a leader, once again, get to the point. We like to process out loud, which can be perceived as wishy-washy. So if you want to brainstorm, brainstorm with anyone else, with someone else who likes to talk out or state. Just going to kind of talk out loud. Take down some of that natural enthusiasm, that cheerleader that you have, so to speak, so that you can talk about the points. Maybe you make bullet points. Review your emails. Are they 5 paragraphs with 1 paragraph of meat? Maybe it's that, hey, hi everyone. Hope you're having a great day. Here's what we're hoping to accomplish today. Boom, boom, boom. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. So you're still having that friendliness being conveyed through the written communication, but at the same time, you're comfortable with it. If it's an HR issue, putting some guidelines in place to say, I'm here to help you and this is what we need to do. For those analytical communicators that are leaders, making yourself slow down. When you ask questions, make sure that they don't come across as an interrogation. We know you make decisions based on facts, and that's okay, but asking those questions, making a point to put on your calendar, talk to 2 employees today, because it's your natural tendency to go into your office, close your door, and work on whatever you needed. If you need me, I'm here and I'll help you and I'll stop what I'm doing, but it's more along the facts of I want to make sure that I'm a resource. By making an effort to break that and get out and talk with people, you're going to seem more approachable. People are going to be more apt to talk with you. Because you like to process internally before speaking out loud, what you may do is say, okay, I'm going to gather some information. I'll make a decision by Friday at 2 o'clock. Also, as a leader, and this is key when fuel management and creating that communication style. That high 4 tends to be more of those problem solvers. And you may hear yourself, why do I have to motivate them? They've got a job, they've got a paycheck. No news is good news. If you're managing someone who's that relational communicator, you have to recognize the effort as well as the results. Because while you're assuming no news is good news, they may be assuming that there's an issue that you're not speaking to them about. If you're that relational communicator and you're managing someone who's an analytical communicator, you want to take a step back and give them some very job-specific feedback, usually done in a more private setting. They tend not to want to be the ones that are brought up in front of everybody in a party. Let them know quickly, concisely. This is what needs to be done. As you understand that and as you begin to listen and recognize what your team is, then you're going to be able to fluctuate between that receiver and much easier. Also, one of the things that will create that engagement is just restating what you've heard. This is what I've heard, and giving them the option to say yes or no. So the first trust killer when it comes to authentic communication is under communicating. This is the why, okay? So we've talked about what am I saying, but why am I saying it? In the absence of information, rumors will abound. Think of that. Did you guys hear what happened to Fred? Fred's over there going, I didn't even hear what happened to me. And we can't always, as leaders, we can't give all the information. Sometimes the why is, I don't know yet. I don't know all the answers, and that's okay. But when you go back to why am I saying it, is it to be a part of the group or is it to clarify under communicating? We tend to see the trust killer of under communicating happen in two different situations. One, when it's a brand new manager, of I don't know what I can say, so I'm not going to really say anything. I'm going to hoard the information. Or two, there's some change happening in the company. Whether it's a change of leadership, it's a change of ownership, it's a change of culture. We're going from service to sales. And they're still in a midst of change. We have to give them some information. If we don't, they'll create the information to fill in the blanks. As leaders, we think sometimes the best thing to say is not to say anything at all. And, if it's a case of an HR issue, we can't over communicate. But what we can do is have some of those scripted answers of, it's being looked into, it's being taken care of. And sometimes under communicating comes from a difference of perspective and attention to detail. People are listening but hear two different things. At Omnia, we do behavioral assessments. That's kind of our job, to help with the development and selection of employees. But even now, sometimes we have to take a step back and go, did I say that really? True story. Last Friday, I'm doing a workshop here on site for one of our clients, and Carrie Bennett, who is our fabulous marketing specialist. You get emails from her. It's like, hey, Kim, what can I help you with? And I go, listen, I'm doing a breakout session on listening. And in it has two handouts, handout A, handout B. And I need those A and B on two different colored pieces of paper so that when I hand it out, I know who has A and who has B. Can you print out, if I send you those handouts, if I give you those handouts, can you print out those handouts for me on different colors? And she's like, yeah, handout A, handout B, two different colors. How many copies? 8 copies. Great. I rush off to my office, thinking I'm going to print it out. I come to her and say, hey, here are the papers I need. Here's handout A, handout B. I need these on 2 different colors. And she goes, oh, well, I thought you needed this. You needed A and you needed B. Handout A, which is the letter A, handout B, which is the letter B, on 2 different colored pieces of paper. For us, we just died laughing. And I go, well, obviously, I did not do a very good job of checking in to say, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you have any questions? And she, being as collaborative and helpful as she is, she just ran with it. We do this for a living, and at times there's still communication disconnects for us. So ask yourself, why am I saying it? If it's to give them clear direction, then you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the details. Does the receiver need more information that you normally give? Maybe they're that person that's going to ask a lot of questions and you think big picture. As the sender, we have to adjust that. If you are the receiver and you're getting information, then you have to be willing to step up and say, hey, this is information. Is this what you need? This is what I'm hearing. Conducting those frequent check-ins to ensure that you're connecting with your team is going to allow them to feel valued. Under-communicating is a trust killer, but just as important and just as much of a trust killer is the over-communication. So over-communication, we have to be very careful about that. We have to know those dangers. And maybe it's that blurred leadership line. It's someone who's recently promoted, or your culture is everyone's friends. We go out after work, we go bowling, we have drinks, we socialize, or we're just a family, which is great, but that times leads to over-communication. I'm really good friends with Beth, and so I'm going to tell her about Sarah's performance. Beth doesn't need to be a part of that triangle. The other thing is that what could disengage your team is that if there are issues within a team, they're going to, instead of me going to Beth or me going to Sarah when I have a problem with them, I'm going to go to somebody else. I'm going to go to Sabrina and go, Sabrina, Sarah took my Diet Coke again. It was my last one. I have talked to her and talked to her and talked to her. She still takes it. Well, I've now put Sabrina in a very uncomfortable area, right? She's got those unclear priorities. Does she show solidarity with me and say, oh yeah, Sarah steals Diet Cokes all the time? Versus saying, hey Kim, did you go and talk with her? In fear and emotions. I'm scared, so I'm going to just kind of blurt out everything. Vent, gripe, bring out things that were done 12 years ago that I still can't get over it because my emotions are involved. And as much as we try to create that box of the workplace and the work-life balance, it doesn't always happen. We have to be aware of what's causing us to over-communicate and why we're doing that. Once we understand that and we can recognize them, we can avoid it. And understand that those lines are redefined on a daily basis. What may be okay to share today to a certain point, now there's some additional information as leaders that you can't share. Your role is to encourage your team to ask questions, to feel that there's a solidarity and that we're together, but to understand that you can't share everything. I understand that, Joe's come in 4 times late this week. The situation, it has my attention. Yep, I know that Joe came in 4 times late this week, and I've already written him up for it. If you wouldn't want your team to know it about you, then don't share it about other people. And as leaders, we have to enforce that as well with our team to make sure that they know that what's said to you is important, that it's valued, that you're going to listen to it, that you're going to share it with the appropriate people if necessary, but you're not going to come out and point fingers. So we've talked about the what is my role, why am I saying it? We've talked a little bit about the receiver and the sender, but let's talk about how do I say it? How do I communicate that authentic communication? Well, a lot of times we communicate it in nonverbal ways, and we use groups of behaviors. Albert Menraben, who is a psychologist, he studied the art of communication, says that 7% of our communication is found by the words that we say. 7%. I like your shirt. 38% is the paralinguistics. It's the tone. Hi, Sarah. I like your shirt. Sarah, I like your shirt. Did you detect 2 different meanings behind that? And then the last percentage of how we communicate is 55% is nonverbal. That nonverbal is your facial expressions, your gestures, your body language and posture. Am I leaning in towards you? Am I moving back? The proxemics of how, the positioning of our body. Am I getting up in your personal space? Am I looking you in the eye? The haptics, which is the touch. And then appearance. Appearance can be yeah, I say I'm listening to you, but I haven't looked at you once because I'm looking at my keyboard, or I'm reading my book, or I'm on my phone, or on my tablet. All of those are communicating what we call a silent message. And that silent message will either engage or disengage your employees quicker than anything that you say. Also think about it this way. If 7% is of our communication and our meaning is conveyed by the words that we say, we've automatically lost 93% of our communication and our understanding when we use text and email because it's strictly the written word. We add 45% if we pick up the phone. So beware of your silent messages. And those silent messages through email may be a quick response. Or it could be, I don't respond for days. Your email has fallen into the abyss, the dark hole, so to speak. Maybe your silent messages are, I'm putting my phone on D&D when someone comes into my office so that I can look them in the eye, I can listen to what they have to say, and I can communicate with them. Or it's the I'm typing on my computer while someone's talking to me going, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Maybe it's just the expression on your face. When Carrie and I are talking and brainstorming, she'll tell you, I can't look you in the eye. I need to, because I get distracted. I need to think. And a lot of times she places her elbows on her desk, the tips of her fingers on her forehead, and she just listens with her eyes closed. If I did not know that was her giving me her full attention, I would think that she wasn't listening to me, like, oh, you're giving me a headache, go away. So we have to communicate what some of those silent messages that we may send. Maybe it's the, hey, can I take I know I'm that relational communicator. I know I like to overtalk. I'm going to take a few notes so that I can make sure that I'm getting everything that you're saying. So think about, what are some of the silent messages that you've either sent or received? And as you're thinking about that, like I said, maybe it's the computer, maybe it's the cell phone. How do we silently show disinterest, and how do we silently show excitement? So you can type in any of those three boxes as you're thinking about it. See, like, oh, lots of people are typing. So the smiling, absolutely. The deep breaths and sighs. And that could go either way. Like someone's talking to you and you're relieved and you're like a, or someone's talking to you and you're like, something as simple as a sigh can convey so much. A fast-paced walk. Yep, I'm trying to get out of here. Well, maybe you just walk fast and you're walking with somebody. Not looking at someone when they're speaking, the rolling of the eyes, they're happy to see you. How we silently show disinterest is absolutely, I'm looking away and doing other things. Eye rolling is huge. Maybe having one foot out of the office door and one foot in wanting to leave. So yeah, I'm going to stand here, I'm going to talk to you, but you can see me shifting my weight to the foot that's outside if you're taking too much time. A blank stare, a stand up. The most common ones I hear is that, crossing of the arms, and that can be an indicator. However, it could also be an indicator that someone's cold. For some people, when they're really listening, they'll sit back and cross their arms. I had a previous employer, the president of the company did that, and it was always the first couple of times it was a little bit disheartening because I'm sharing this great idea and the arms are crossed and he'd lean back in his chair and he had one of those faces that wasn't when he was thinking, it looked like he was about ready to just chew you out. But over time and conversation, I realized that's just him giving me his full undivided attention. Also, looking at your phone, checking your watch or your email, toe tapping. This is finishing the conversation for the person. So this is what I'm hearing, right? Yeah, no, you're really not listening if you're finishing my sentences for me. So how do we silently show excitement? Just grin. We smile and speak with enthusiasm. Leaning into the conversation. Lots of hand motions, jump up and down. I like that. I am that who, if you tie my hands behind my back, probably can't talk. In fact, that right now in my office, I'm standing up, my hands are going, I'm excited. I'm leaning into the webinar when I want to stress a point. None of you can see that, right? But it's a silent message that I'm sending out to you very silently because I'm not on webcam. Thank goodness. But understanding that we cannot surf the phones, we cannot look at our emails, that is going to create disengagement. If you find out that that is the silent message that you are unintentionally, because it is there, put your phone on D&D, Control Alt Delete your computer. Walk away. Set up a meeting in a room or an area where there isn't that capability. If you're having a meeting, make it a no phone zone for your team. Because how we say what we're saying is as important as what we're saying. And if you find that, okay, we've had these conversations, I just got an email and I'm detecting a little bit of tone to it, pick up the phone. Or better yet, walk to that person's office and say, hey, do you have a couple of minutes? Just have a quick question about that. Then you can look at all of those different attributes of how we say, what we say, to get a true idea. And then the last trust killer is those leading questions. By show of hands, how many of you are either parents or have been asked by your parents? So, is there anything I need to know about school today? Or is there something you want to tell me about your day? That is a leading question. So as a kid, we're probably thinking, as a parent, we're like, I've gotten a call from a principal, from a teacher, an email. I know what you did today. As a kid, they're thinking, shoot, what do they know? I don't want to confess something that they don't know about because then I could be really in trouble. Okay, so what happened today? What can I kind of guess? And then you usually get the, oh no, nope, school was fine. But we're asking those leading questions because we know what we want them to say and we know what they have to say. And we tend to ask those same leading questions in the workplace. And when it comes to communication, it's a trust killer. When we ask those leading questions, what we're saying to that person is, I don't trust you enough to tell me what you're feeling. And I hear this, yeah, but Kim, I know what needs to happen, so I've got to guide them in the way. Or people don't always say what they mean, which is true. That's when you have to continue that give and take in authentic communication and talk with people. Ask questions to seek understanding, not lead them to your opinion. Or, I know what they really mean. I know that they say that they're engaged, but they're really not. I know that they said that they're on board and that they're going to do it, but they aren't. So I'm going to lead them down the path. Well, most of us, no matter how collaborative we are, will say, I'm an adult. I don't need you to lead me by asking me these questions. I need you to lead me by creating trust, by listening to me, by having integrity and credibility. And I feel that we have a communication style. So if you're asking those leading questions, get them out of there. We don't need them anymore. So we've talked about the what, the why, the how. So when do I say what I want to say and where do I say it? Well, when is this a one-on-one conversation? One-to-one conversations are great when it's coaching, when it's professional development, when there's some sort of feedback. Also, having that one-to-one takes you right back to where your employees feel like they have that understanding. If you're working to re-engage your team or to engage them by having those one-to-one meetings, it gives them an opportunity to know you, for you to know them. It gives you that opportunity to ask questions. Use a group setting if it's something that you're trying to communicate consistently. One-to-one are great for follow-ups as well as those coachings, but if you're trying to launch something and you want everyone on your team to have a consistent message, have that in a group setting. Make sure that you already have one or two questions prepared that they may ask, or to talk with somebody on your team to say, okay, ask a couple of questions that you know everybody's going to ask. It breaks that ice. It gives them that information to talk about it. Timing is everything. Is it going to be formal? Is it going to be informal? Some examples of formal communication is the performance evaluation. We're sitting down across from each other and I'm giving you feedback on how you've done for the year. If the only time your employees know how they're doing is that during that annual evaluation time and they're shocked by what happens, it's not happening correctly. That's another webinar that you need to sign into. And also the when and the where is know the triggers to avoid the conflict. Now, some conflict can't be avoided. But if you know someone is highly emotional about a certain topic, or you're having this discussion as a team group and you can't hit this roadblock, know what those triggers are. Know what your triggers are. Remember the flaming emails? Instead of sending the flaming emails, take a step back and go, okay, let me think about this. Is this now the right time to hit send on this email? And know the stressors. If you know that someone doesn't like to talk in front of a group, don't necessarily do it. Don't call on them. Make sure that they feel comfortable communicating. If someone has shared information with you, take them outside of the box. Don't make them, hey, so Sarah, I know that we were talking about this last week. Why don't you share what you were saying? Maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing with the group yet. Or they told you in confidence. Respecting that information is going to be key. And then think outside of the box, especially when it comes to triggers and stressors. So there's a new trend that's called the walkie meeting, where people are instead of meeting across the table, which is very formal, they'll take it outside, they'll walk. There's some great benefits for health and mental break, but also that we can walk side by side. Maybe it's that coffee or that meal that you go out of the office to discuss. I know here at Omnia we're having a luncheon on Friday. Is it for anything other than engagement? No. It's for us to have a luncheon, come together for an hour, talk with each other, and then go back to work. But we do have our all company meetings, our quarterly meetings. Same thing. It's over a meal. Maybe you have some room in your office or your company that you can designate some conversation corners where it's got a couple of chairs in there and a whiteboard where people can get outside of their normal environment to get those creative juices flowing. Or even just be able to say, okay, now there's no desk. We're sitting next to each other, across from each other. There's no power position. Let's talk about how we can engage and resolve this conversation. Now we're partners, and everything that I'm saying to you, even if it is corrective feedback and it may be perceived as negative, I'm saying it to you as a partnership to help you be a better employee because we believe in you versus tensions are high because every time I say, hey, come down to my office, it's because someone's in trouble. Think outside the box. And then how do you create that genuine connection? Once again, pay attention to those nonverbal signs. As leaders, be self-aware. Concentrate on your tone of voice when speaking. Is it coming across as genuine or very fake or very authoritative? Making sure you're using that good eye contact and asking questions about your nonverbal signals is going to be key. And remember, for genuine connections, it's all about perspective, perspective, perspective. You can't ask those leading questions. You can know where you want to take the conversation. You can understand what needs to happen, but you can't lead the conversation because once you start leading it, you're talking at someone instead of talking with someone. And final thoughts is the art of communication is the language of leadership. So if you're not sure, what is my language of leadership? How do I communicate with them? Ask for some feedback. Ask for some feedback from your peers, not necessarily from your employees, because they may not be completely honest, but a trusted mentor. Also, ask questions about, I don't really know. Well, we can help you. We've got some great leadership and personal development reports that will talk about your leadership style. Just know that as leaders, we set the tone for communication, and ask yourself, what are my standards when it comes to communication? So we have a couple of minutes. Go ahead. If you have any questions, type in. So you can type them in your box. Share any questions or comments. Absolutely, you can download some communication tips to avoid, as well as we'll be sending out that the takeaway of the presentation. We have a great webinar coming up in March, creating a culture that drives success. And I hear that there's still some music. Okay, so is that better with the music? It's all gone. So one of the questions I'm constantly asked is, what happens when authentic communication, we follow all this, and there's one person who just doesn't want to conform, that their communication style is negative? Always recommend is trying to understand one's self-aware, talk with them about it, find out what is causing that negativity. Is it truly a difference of opinions of who they are and what they're looking for, or is it a difference of core values? Once you understand where that negativity and that communication is coming from, it will help you with working with them on their communication styles. So accessing previous webinars, you can reach out to on our YouTube. We'll send a link as well, Selma, that you can, but we do have a YouTube channel. If you subscribe to it, it has all of our previous webinars on our YouTube channel. And once again, this one will be recorded. It will be available Monday or Tuesday of next week. Always check us in. Thanks, Sarah. There's a link right there of what you can click on to access our previous webinars. And once again, this is all for you. Hopefully you have found it beneficial to understand about the authentic communication. It starts with us as a leader with understanding who we are and what we're doing and going from there. See that we have one final question. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to call me or email me. My information is at the top. Once again, we've got that download of communication tips to avoid, and hopefully we will see you next month. Tanya Devane, who is an amazing speaker with us, will be here and talking about creating a culture that drives success. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you. Here and talking about creating a culture that drives success. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you.